Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I am so sorry about this today. I am having an au naturel day, straight from the shower, no makeup. I like to present myself a little bit better, but today is not the day. It was more important to get on in time and say, good morning, good to see you. It is crazy here trying to get ready for classes and keep the kids busy and so many things to tell you, but good morning is the main thing. And let me get this a bit more squared. I am at my mom's place still. We're leaving a little bit later. Sharon, great to see you. Oh, I love that rug too. We're going to look at that today because that has so many overtones to it. We'll talk about it when I open it, but interesting that you would say that. Martha, great to see you. Another beautiful sunny day, huh? I'm so glad that you're getting the nice weather finally. Kirsten, great to see you. Joy, good morning. Tara, good morning. Penny, good morning. Great to see you all. This is the last day I'm running the show at 10 because I'll be back well, actually tomorrow's Thursday, so I won't be there at all. I'm going to be working straight through tomorrow, and we will catch up with Zoom again soon. But I'm doing 2 classes in the next 2 weeks, plus the Zoom class, plus the mod class. So there's just been a lot going on. We will get back to the Zoom, I promise, because I do love to connect in person. I'm just not really hooking anything right now. I'm working on stuff. Lisa, good morning. Great to see you. This is awful. And I don't even have pretty rugs behind me to offset it, but it is what it is. So, a few things I wanted to tell you before we get started on our content. We have just been busy here with my mom winding like hundreds of little skeins of wool for the classes that are coming up in person. I know there's a few people in our group that I'll meet on Saturday at Madison at the wool store for the class. And I've been putting together such nice kits, very small beginner kits that I will make available on our page too, our Facebook page, Ribbon Candy and Punch Needle Club. And I have to say, I was amazed this morning to see that there are 5,800 members of our club, and I'm so grateful for every one of them because it is such a nice group. I'm really glad that I used the word club in making this group because it feels like a club. It feels like we're connected. It's the same size at this point as the Contemporary Rug Hooking group, which is not a brand, but a group. So I feel very happy and grateful to have everybody in that group. So nice, so helpful, so friendly, so forthcoming, helping beginners, cheering people on. It is just amazing. I am so happy for that. Kaz, good to see you. Good morning. Good morning. Well, I look like this partly because as busy as everything is, the kids still have to do something with energy and life in the summertime. So we didn't actually get out to the pond yesterday. It got pretty overcast and a little bit windy. So we're going to shoot for that today. So I know I'm going to be in the water in a few minutes. And instead, we had a really nice day. We ended up going out to a place called, I don't know if you have them near you, Cracker Barrel. It's a funny old-timey place. It's very forced the way that they tried to be nostalgic. Lots of antique stuff around. They're sort of, they're a chain, but they have crazy big breakfasts and toasts and very plain things that the kids like, and a little store where you enter with a lot of old-timey stuff, soaps and products and toys and the old candies. My mom was looking for her Sky Bar. She got something else, but it's super, super nice and fun. And then we were at the playground for hours. And I took my mom to Webb's because she is the great puncher of the Western world, punch hooker, punch needler. And Webb's is considered like one of the great, if not the greatest, yarn store in the U.S. So we went there, and there were Europeans in there shopping, which is a funny thing. We're so lucky to have, access to it so close by. But she went crazy and filled up the cart. It was fun. It was fun, but we ended up paying for it by working till midnight, winding stuff. And you know what else happened? Good morning, April. You know what else happened yesterday that's exciting, and I will tell you more about. 2 things. One of them is the Van Gogh, Barbara's Van Gogh Challenge. I'm going to bring that up on Friday night for cocktail night. And I think on Friday night for cocktail night, I'll just walk you into Van Gogh a little bit so that everybody knows about the chair challenge. And I'm going to ask Barbara if it's okay for her if we bump that due date for our hooked and punched Van Gogh chairs back a little bit. And I am working on a couple of options of places to exhibit those if you would like your Van Gogh piece to go into a live exhibit, like a real exhibit, real in person, whether you're there or not. We can always document it, and you're a part of that. So that's coming up on Friday. And then I think I will cover Anne Weissman, who has a beautiful book that I want to look at. She has a few, but one I want to look at for cocktail night. So that is coming up Friday. In the meantime, it was an exciting couple of days since I got here. I'm planting the seed. This is the flea in the ear, because I will be putting a call out to help many times in the future to our immediate group here in our Facebook group. Because somebody wrote, an agent, what's it called, acquisitions agent from a nice publishing house, got in touch and has been watching our show here. And we, I guess, are going to be doing a book together. So she sent all the paperwork and forms over yesterday. It's going to be a very nice how-to book. And I spent a good part of yesterday while we were at the playground writing out the table of contents. But I said to her, if I agree to do this project, a book about rug hooking, it won't be punch, needle, and rug hooking. It will just be rug hooking for now. I said, if I agree to do this, it is going to be with the understanding that the premise of the book will be the way that I teach and the way that I talk and the way that I feel, which is, really including beginners, really sort of getting rid of that elitist air that surrounds rug hooking, and making it, again, pushing it back to being what it once was and should be, which is a thrift craft that everybody can do and everybody can afford. And, very detailed how-to book, but still based on that principle, that overarching principle that it is for everybody. And I said to her, I am not great at everything by any means. I am not perfect, and I am not great at a lot of parts of rug hooking, but I know who is, people in the group. So I said to her, I'm going to be doing a lot of photographs for it with my pieces and some patterns, but I'm going to be doing huge shout outs and reach outs to you in the next month or two when I come across something like, for example, not yet, but for example, I haven't even thought it through. Does anybody have great Waldoboro pieces? Does anybody have finished pieces? Does anybody have great pieces with irregular borders? This kind of, crazy potluck thing. I'm going to be shouting out to you all the time for shout outs so that I can include some of your finished pieces in this book. And it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a beautiful book. It's a nice publisher. It's going to be very visible, and I want us to work together on this. This is not my project. This is our project, and I want to work together to make the best how-to / inspirational rug hooking book ever so far. So this is going to be really excited. I'm really excited, and I cannot do it alone. There's no question about it. So I'll be putting out lots of shout-outs because I know a lot of you have really... It doesn't have to be the best piece in the world, right? No, it doesn't have to be the superlative anything. But it will be a great example of what I'm looking for. And it's great to have all kinds of pictures of all kinds of pieces by all kinds of people with different interests and different strengths. So I'm really excited about that. She was completely on board. And she said, I'm going to be your advocate. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to walk you through this. I know you're busy. And I thought at first, no, I'm not doing this. I'm too busy. And then I thought, you know what? This is one of those places in life where you come to a crossroads in the middle of a field and there's signposts all over the place and they're all confusing. But I think after this company taking off so quickly in such a short time and this whole, huge media site and membership and all that stuff, it's been very, I've gotten lost in the chaos of it. And I thought, this is going to be a great way. This is like serendipity, kismet. This is going to be a great way to streamline my thoughts again, being forced to do a project like this, thinking about, projects, types of projects, building outlines for things. I'm always thinking, what videos can I do? What short videos for beginners can I do? I can't think of anything. This is going to be a great opportunity for me a couple days a week to sit down, streamline, organize, work off outlines, get back to the beginning and clear the debris off my sort of proverbial metaphorical desk and get back to the basics. And it is going to be a great opportunity for you too to be able to put in rugs that you want and have them in a beautiful publication for everybody to see where they belong. So that'll be a lot of fun for us. Going to be exciting, Barbara, and I want to talk to you about Van Gogh too, so I'll send you an email. People have been writing and saying, I really want to do Van Gogh, but lots of deadlines coming up with life, so I want to think about maybe pushing that back, and I'm working with a couple galleries around here about the possibility of displaying it, so it wouldn't be displayed soon anyway. We'll figure it out so that everybody who wants to be involved can be involved, as everything we do. If you want to be involved, you should be involved. Were you one of those people growing up, because I certainly was, who tried out for every team, every sports team there was in high school and got cut from every single one after your mom bought the cleats? that was absolutely me, and I hated that they did that. I don't think they do that anymore. You get trophies now for, like, you know, existing, losing and existing. But that sounds awful. But I want everybody to be involved with projects like this. This is, everything with me is a group effort, and it has to be that way or I'm not doing it. So let's return to what we were talking about. Such a heartstrings book for me, this Alice Butler thing. I'm just going over the top with love for this. This is their brand, by the way. Remember, I was telling you yesterday, when these rugs were designed, if Alice did it alone with no help, with the templates, you know, that Vic would leave her, it would just be a B for Butler. If she did it with Merle, it would be BB, but it would be the B's probably backing on each other. I haven't seen it yet, but the B's backing. And if she did it with Hugo, because of course he wrote this book, it would be HB. So the 3 different brands for Alice's rugs. So we have the last couple of days been talking about Alice. And again, let me show you that first picture of her, because I keep looking at it. I keep opening the book and looking at it because I just love her. You bring her into focus. And Merle. You know, imagine Vic coming home, you know, from Washington on the weekends, from university, and you know, thinking as he comes home about the next designs, because he's the designer, and coming home to these 2 people who look so friendly and nice and kind and creative. I just love this world. And so we did this sort of content of the book in terms of how they worked. And I thought it was very short, very small book. It's sort of not self-published book, but printed by Port NW Northwest. Port NW. It is a little bit hard to find, and I noticed people have been buying them up on the internet, so it might be a case of waiting for the next wave of them to come out, because it is a proper treasure. We talked a lot about their life history and the great short history that he did writing about his family, and there's a little bit more of that at the end. But in this episode, I really want to look at the rugs. This is a rug that I used, I think, on Monday or Tuesday as the thumbnail for our coffee time. This is called Carnival, 22 by 39. Now, this seems to be a pretty standard size because, remember, Alice was getting her burlap at the local store, and this is what they had. So this is what she got. So this is called Carnival. I'm going to show it to you first, and then I'll tell you what Vic writes about this rug. Remember, he is trying to show us these rugs with some kind of chronology, but he said how difficult it was years later to nail that down. So Carnival, this really, doesn't this have Harlequin overtones? Not like Venetian Carnival. This is like Circus Carnival, isn't it? All of these shapes, they almost look like, if you celebrate Christmas, Christmas tree toppers. Now, isn't this extraordinary? To cut up a composition with these kinds of shapes, Veris was suggesting that she use warm colors inside the shapes and cool colors in the background. The rug has been in use for many years and has sustained some moth damage. Just wanted to be sure I was caught up there. It looks pretty good. Remember, this book is 2014. Now, this one is very different for them, and the picture is out of focus in the book. It's called Colonial Wreath. So you can expect that this is going to be a hat tip to earlier rugs, specifically Colonial Revival shapes. And we talk about this, so I know that you know. This one is large. It's like she pieced 2 pieces together because it's double the size, 44 by 66. Let me show you first. And remember, this one is out of focus, so that's probably as good as it gets. What a beautiful, soft piece, right? This sort of Colonial Revival, Federalist style in America, the kind of architectural molding type design that you would associate with ceiling work or a very ornate house. But within the formality of the design, he has dropped in some very poetic, soft flowers and very soft colors. Almost Art Deco colors, which does, of course, relate to the Colonial Revival period. That is the period. So interesting composition to come after the sort of Harlequin-inspired carnival design. This is very unexpected. This rug was completed before we left Baldwin Park. This is the only rug made from, here it comes, blanket remnants. Alice found a sale on woolen blanket ends at one of the major Southern California department stores. Bullock's or the May Company. The cutting of the strips and hooking was very difficult because of the bulk of the fabric. This was by far the hardest to hook of any that Alice created. It also took the most time to complete and is the sole rug made from new materials. These are all interesting points because these are all extremes, right? These, this is very finite speech that he's giving us here. The only one that's made from bought supplies, the only one that was hooked this thick, the only one that was using new supplies rather than found supplies. This was also the only time she was able to acquire any quantity of any one color. Now that explains why she wanted it twice as big, doesn't it? That really explains why she wanted it twice as big. And that also, in part, explains why it's not a harlequin or a crazy abstract design, because he knows it's going to go down on the floor of a house and it probably should be somewhat neutral. Now, all of this is interesting and it makes a good point. Remember, Alice is hooking on burlap, always. So on burlap, we tend to not want to use it very often these days because we know it does not have longevity. And it is very prone to damage with any sort of water damp contact. It will rot. It is very hard to recover from that once it gets going along those lines. So she's using burlap, but the thing about burlap is that it's very, very loose. So she is still having the struggle of a lifetime, of a hooking lifetime, hooking heavy blankets into burlap. And of course she would be. And you do see, this is just a side note. Oh, thanks, Sharon. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, the main thing I was saying to the agent was, I'm only doing it if I can pull from my group of people and get help using their illustrations and their input too. That's the only way that I'm doing it. I'm not doing a lone wolf project at this point because number one, it's not how I like to work, and number two, it's a time thing, isn't it? Because I'm not giving this up, our time together here. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, I would say, thinking about this colonial wreath that I do see on the buy and sell group, don't get me started there. It was a big blow up last night with me. On that buy and sell group, people often post blankets. And I have recently seen, for example, Hudson Bay blankets, which you do not want to hook with unless they are really damaged because they're worth hundreds of dollars. Up to you. But, you do occasionally see blankets on that site, and it is fine to hook with blankets. But I will remind you, if you're a beginner, just what Vic is saying of Alice, it is very hard to pull through a loop that's made from a blanket because a blanket is thick. So it's going to be hard on your arm, on your wrist, on the side of your hand, and all the places where it's going to hurt. It's going to be hard going, and it's going to be slow going. If you're going to use blankets because they're nostalgic or because you just love the color, you love the pattern, the price is right, all of these are good reasons. But maybe think about only hooking part of your piece with a blanket, not all of it, or coming and going, picking up the project and putting it down, because it will be hard going. And I would never hook blanket, no matter how thin, into something like monk's cloth or rug warp. I would be thinking about linen, and I'm going to say it, burlap still, if it's not going on the floor. I would be thinking about only those two things, because otherwise you are going to be in a world of pain, I'm afraid. So this next one I absolutely love. Vic does not like this one. This is called the Four Seasons. It is 36 by 46, so back to one of her sort of standard sizes. I'm going to show it to you first. I hope that you love it as much as I do. The four seasons are around the four corners of this piece. So let's look. You see on top it's spring, below summer, side to side winter and autumn. Let me bring you in a little bit closer. Very, very graphic. Very line-driven, shape-driven composition. Autumn. Look at the autumn feels. You see a little cottage there. Winter coming into the blues and the whites. Even though they're in California, this really is, and of course the shared space in the center of the composition is where the four seasons come together, and it's the sky. So whether he planned that or not, that's smart. That's a smart composition. So what he says of this is, I feel that this design is not entirely successful, possibly because I have crowded too much detail into the area I was working with, or perhaps because it requires the viewer to walk around the rug or rotate it to follow the design. It seems awkward in a way. It might have been better if I'd created a separate rug for each season. This rug is definitely one of our earlier ones. I have to say, I disagree with all of this. I think this design is fantastic. I love the busyness of it. It's not that busy. The shapes that he's used are almost stencil-like. right? They're very shapy. Look at the way he's used orange. If you've done a composition class with me, follow the orange with your eye, right down, corner down and up again. He's giving us a V with the orange. V is one of the strongest composition shapes there is in any composition, going back to Egyptian times. People have always understood what carries your eye through a composition. He's doing it with color because he's a proper artist. I feel that the idea of having a Four Seasons rug and one season on each side is fantastic. I personally really have a thing about rugs that are one way when they're on the floor, because if you approach it from the other way, you're seeing it upside down. And for me, that's always one of my sort of OCD little things. But with this rug, if it's in the middle of the room, you approach it from different angles at different times, and sometimes you see winter and sometimes you see autumn. It's exciting. I absolutely love everything about that rug, and I'm sad that he didn't like this one because I don't know if he's alive. I'm really actively researching the family, but again, the name Victor Hugo is hard to research because you are getting a lot of results, and none of them are the ones I'm looking for. I do love Victor Hugo, but Notre Dame, but not this week when I'm trying to research Vic Hugo. So I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I think that's my favorite rug that they did together. This one is very modernist. It's called Evolution. I'm going to show it to you first. Again, limited color palette. When you're as good as Vic at designing, you can get away with using this limited color palette. He's obviously very involved, number one, in art. Number two, in popular art movement, pop art of the time. These sort of mid-century shapes and colors, this is beyond atomic, right, with this starburst. Huge part of the motif. But you see sort of symbols coming down off of the sun. I'm going to give you the translation of this in a minute. Look at the different colors of rust, brown, and orange he's used for the sun and the trees. He's made a real connection between the sort of natural world, the sun, and the trees, like the earth motifs. And he's done something different with symbols. He's put the symbols in black, and he's put the man-made things in black, the men and the towns, right? So interesting. I don't know if this was on purpose or if this is symbolic, but I think this is an extraordinary rug. And again, Alice and Vic always worried about running out of certain colors because she's using all recycled wool, with the exception of the blanket at times. Look at the way he's broken up the background with the lighter and the darker colors of white. That is really smart. I'm sure as time went on, they got better at judging how much wool they would use for each piece in each space, but it's always hard to judge, right? I go by the 4 times rule. 4 times the amount is typically the amount, but if someone hooks a little bit tighter or a little bit taller, it can completely throw that. I know a lot of hookers who go by the 3 times rule. I have never done that because I feel if you're giving people 3 times as much fabric for the space they're hooking, they have got to hook in a very specific way, very even, very low pile way to get it to last. It probably took them ages to figure this out, and with using recycled material, each one handles differently. So you're going to get a different result, and you're going to get different mileage from each one, slightly, but enough to skewer the whole project. So he's very careful about how he designs, and in this design, he says the sun represents the source of life. Life begins in the upper right with an amoeba, then evolves into bivalve, fish, reptile, mammal, humans dancing by on their riverbank village, humans at war, humans with architecture. This is all interesting. Knowledge, learning, he puts into parentheses. And interesting, again in parentheses, this design is an homage to the Rite of Spring section of Walt Disney's Fantasia. Do you remember that? How crazy that is? But I can see how he'd be very inspired by that. It would have been new at the time. So this is a story. This really is a story. I didn't even notice that some at war, standing in front of the village that they've built. Very interesting. The evolution of sort of the fish showing fish to man, and tiny, tiny little amoeba-type cell to something much grander. Interesting. Interesting. Lots of statements, too, because, of course, he's designing according to his taste. He's in university, then he gets working, and life becomes very, very busy. Kira, good to see you. Super interesting. Now, this one's called Scattered Leaves. He only says of this, 23 by 36, I designed this one in full. It was not made from templates, although it looks very much like one of the template rugs. Interesting, because remember we were speculating yesterday about the leaves as templates because he gave Alice leaves. These are leaves, and they look like the templates in her other rug, but he's saying she didn't use these for templates. This, I guess, is just straight up hand drawn. Now again, composition-wise, color-wise, are these rugs extraordinary? I mean, is this just me? I feel like every one I look at is crazy. This could be, God forbid, a design at Wayfair or something right now that pops up on your Facebook screen every 10 minutes and makes you want to gouge your eyes out. This is so contemporary. But again, you get the atomic bursts here and there, which really are a giveaway to mid-century, although people are doing retro mid-century now for sure. These colors are so interesting. He has got, I'm trying not to get the glare, he has got the sort of coppers going alongside the beiges. He has done a variation on dark light, dull bright, because look at the way, in this case, the rusts are the ones that are bright and popping. Look at how he's gone out of his way to do, or Alice, multi-colored hooking on these very sort of fishbone leaf skeletons. And then they've got some beautiful fleshed out, really different trees, exotic type leaves in silhouette. It reminds me of trying to do dyeing with leaves, you know, or pressing leaves in books. Beautiful shapes fanned out, very skeletal. But in this case, he's using this coral pink inside here as one of his main colors. And weirdly, with a palette this subtle and subdued, the rust is the pop, and the coral is almost like the secondary bright, dark light, dull bright. It's coming in as light as it is as that sort of reinforcing bright color. And when you are forced with a great composition like this, with a great palette like this, limited palette, subtle palette, your eye starts to read very unexpected colors as the pop color. And isn't that exciting when that happens? It really makes you think about the possibilities. Masterly. This one is called Leafy Explosion. I think I used this yesterday for the thumbnail, 29 by 37. This is one of my more conventional designs. Wait till you see this. It's not super conventional. It is a relatively early rug, probably created in the late 1940s. The frayed edges indicate its age in use. The rug shows another way of using up small quantities of materials. This is far from conventional. I can see what he means is he's going for like the central scroll with flowers and vines reaching out to the border, but this is nothing like a traditional pattern. This is non-conventional. Color-wise, the small wreath is more like a laurel wreath in the center, and it's just radiating out color. And he continues to use the background color, which is like the off-white, right to the border. So he is not creating a medallion composition, even though he's got the center bracketed off with an oval. He's still not going that route. It is much more contemporary. I just don't feel like he gives himself enough credit in this book, looking at these designs. I feel like the way that he talks of his designing and his color use as being traditional or conventional or not successful. All of these I think are extraordinary. This one is called Flowering Peach Tree, 35 by 50. This is an older rug, probably from the late 1940s. I believe this piece to be the first one I designed as a wall hanging. Interesting in their family timeline. You can see the signature we used in the later rugs, the HB for Hugo Butler logo. Now, does this look like a 1940s rug to you or a 1960s rug? How ahead of his time is he, truly? I mean, this is such a Brady Bunch sort of feel to it that it's crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know. I'm thinking that's a cloud in the background. It's some kind of a flowering tree. He's showing the roots. You know, he's shown us in previous rugs. He likes to think about evolution. He likes to think about the origin of things. He's very symbolic in his planning, and he's showing you the roots of a tree. It's not a typical leafy tree. It's a flowering tree. And that gray in the background looks to me like a giant sort of puffy, fluffy cloud. Really, really good composition. He's got, the tree is side heavy, isn't it? It's side heavy. It's almost like a bunch of grapes on one side. And for that reason, he has counterbalanced that with this really lush cloud on the other side. Isn't that something? And that dark, dark, dark vertical line in the center. Skinny, very unrealistic vertical line in the center for that tree trunk, showing that strong line, that strong tree in the center. Probably meant a lot more things to him, right? All that symbolism, but so beautiful, so 60s, right, Linda? And it's 40s. He's saying it's 40s. Just crazy, just crazy. This one is called Sunflowers. It's another beauty, 35 by 48. For the background, I simply indicated some swirly lines. Why not, right? And gave Alice free rein to use the shades of beige that she had available. The resulting background is her work. Remember yesterday we were saying Alice got really triggered by having so many beiges around, and she kept asking him to design things that she could get rid of the beiges. She was all beiged out at a certain point. So this, I'm guessing, is one of those rugs where, you remember she did her orange and yellow dyeing with the RIT dyes that she would buy at the local store, and she's beiging out the background with her stash that is really sort of overwhelming her. I just think this is another, again, remember these are supposed to be in chronological order. So this is not going to be a 70s composition like it looks like. If the last one was 40s, this one can't possibly be 70s. But it does seem like he's leaving things for Alice while he's away at school. So it seems like we're in the same era. How interesting is it to, number one, handle a background this way. Number two, give us these vertical stalks again in these dark, dark, dark colors, right? He's giving the flowers a look. They're sunflowers, but he's making them look like his signature suns, too. Now, look at the stalks on these flowers. The strength of them are like the flowering tree in the last composition. And look at the way he's lined up these super mid-century, very, very, very even, level, thoughtful leaves. Not just in browns and blacks, but in blues. This is just extraordinary. How little brown he's used for this composition. Only the one in that bottom corner, other side, I can't reach it, but that brown in that bottom corner is anchoring and counterbalancing in terms of composition. This is sliding sideways, isn't it? Super successful composition. The strength of those verticals is really balancing out the wildness of the petals, the uneven petals in that crazy background. But there is so much strength in those leaves of different sizes, multiples, right? Multiples are always a good composition, and verticals are giving it strength and anchoring it. Just that little use of brown, because, you know, sunflowers do have mostly brown, don't they? The whole center is brown. And he's not wanting to use the brown because, or Alice, I'm not sure who's making the color decisions from motif to motif. But, you know, I'm thinking with that beige background, they didn't want to go crazy using a lot of browns for the centers of the flowers. So they used whites and yellows for the centers of the flowers. Why not? It solved the problem, right? I love the whimsy, too. I know which one you mean, Barbara. It was just so different. This one is called Chinese Flowers, 36 by 47. This is the most complex design we ever worked on. All the flowers were based on the many flowers in a 9-foot by 12-foot dark green Chinese rug that Alice and Vic Sr., that's his dad, bought in Los Angeles in the early 1930s. Interesting. So Vic Sr. is his dad, so Merle is not. So I don't know the story of that. I just made that connection. So they bought this beautiful dark green Chinese rug, huge, in Los Angeles in the early 1930s. He says, I kept tight control over the selection of colors. It was a very time-consuming project, and it seemed to take forever to complete, what with my sometimes infrequent trips to Tacoma. So he's back and forth, and he's trying to help her with this composition. Wait till you see. They tried to use all the same flowers that were in the other rug. And this obviously sounds like it was a hugely complicated project for them, the most complicated project that they did. But you see that they have successfully gotten a very Asian, I'm pointing to this orange flower, feel into the flowers. Very graphic shading again. This is my personal favorite kind of shading. I'm not a big fan of the 40 colors in one petal school of shading. I way prefer this kind of early mid-20th century graphic type shading where you're just picking out a few colors and you're going to extremes with light and dark and you don't have those middle tones. Isn't it interesting and stunning that they used this kind of bronze green, army green for the center? I think this is so different. You expect to see a green rug, right? It's probably dark forest green, and there are a lot of greens in this heavy, heavy, heavy border. But in that center, a very irregular center, he has not been precious about the placement of the flowers because it's thicker in some places and thinner in others. But putting that bronze center in for me is a huge compliment to the amount of peach, apricot, and rust in pink that are in this rug. I think this is extraordinary. And isn't it funny how this is just hanging out on the end, like some little petals, like an afterthought? Isn't that extraordinary? Hi, Susie. How are you? Good to see you. This is, I mean, I have just been enjoying this book. We're never going to get through it. We're never going to get through it all. But, you know, we can return to it next week because I really want to show you these pictures. This being a self-published book, it is not hugely available. I'll just show you a couple more and then I'll get going because time-wise it's a little crazy here too. So this is the cover picture that I'm showing you next. I'll show you this first and then I'll read what he says about it. I'm going to show it to you sideways just for space. Now, this is very experimental for this time, right? At this point, you know, we've seen things like this on the album covers in the 1980s. Have you seen things like this on your Swatch watch, right? I had a Swatch watch that looked just like this. I wish I could find it. I'll probably find it on eBay. But this one is called Brownian Movement. Now, this is interesting. 35 by 45. It seems much bigger than that, but it's not. And again, I just want to point out the amount of blocking that they've done here. Light pink, light yellow. There's several yellows even right here. There's at least 2 or 3 going across. Again, they're always thinking about running out of material. And this, in a way, is I don't want to say a sort of handicap or a hindrance. I want to say it's a challenge, right? When you have that in the back of your mind, that, right, Sharon, the wool chicken, that you're about to run out, it really affects the way that you design. And it seems like at this point in their designing, and Vic's designing at least, that he has come to a place, if you think about the last one I just showed you, the little flowers in the border, where he is flexible. He's become more flexible. And when he gets to a point where they run out of something, or there needs to be a shift or a minor change, he's fully prepared to change the composition, change the color, add something, take something away. He seems much more flexible than he does at the beginning, where he's very sort of ruled by quantities of fabric and color palette. He seems at this point to be getting to be like, if we run out of orange, if we run out of blue, if we run out of black, I don't know if that's the motivation or if that's all design choices, but if he had put another sort of pop somewhere else in this composition of blue, because they ran out of pinks and whites and yellows and oranges, it would essentially have the same message and the same feel. He becomes such a master at this. So Brownian movement was explained to me as the random pattern a refrigerator's leg would make on a linoleum floor during an earthquake. That was an intended pause. That was a dramatic pause. I have never heard this before. I'm very glad that I know this, just in case on trivia night this comes up. I will make a clean sweep. This is so specific. So again, a Brownian movement is the random pattern that a refrigerator will make on a linoleum floor during an earthquake. In other words, while it's walking. And again, you can see it, right? You can absolutely see it. Isn't that interesting? I just can't get over this one. This one is sometimes referred to as my Montréal rug. If I remember correctly, this is the first of the artistic rugs. I estimate it is from the late 1940s. I have in my possession a packet of letters sent by Alice and Kitty to Mrs. Champion, Dale's mother. We'll talk about him later or another time, in Baldwin Park. In one letter, Kitty complains about the ugly designs my love of modern art is prompting me to make. Even though she disliked them, she never let me know. This rug, I am sure, is one that prompted her comments in that letter. See notes on page 83. I'm going to share that with you now, and I'll end that episode there. I'm debating whether we should return to this on Friday night for cocktail night. You know, let's do that. Let's start out cocktail night returning to this and finishing the story of Alice Butler. And then we'll switch to Van Gogh and we'll talk about inspiration. If you are going to be working on the Van Gogh project with us, we'll talk about Van Gogh a little bit and a little bit about he himself, which can never hurt, right? We're going to tie that into our hooking projects. So why don't we do that? And I'll save Ann Weisman for Monday and I'll run her through coffee time next week. But let me just go to Dale's, that story about the next door neighbor, because at the end he's got a beautiful sort of cast of characters, for lack of a better word. He doesn't call it anything. He just says notes. And one of them I was reading, the Champion family. So here is Vic, who we have not seen yet. He doesn't say when, with Dale Champion. Let me read first, and then you can see, because it'll be more meaningful. So among the cast of characters, the Champion family. Because at the end, this almost makes me want to cry when you're looking at all these pictures and then you come to the end and he does a paragraph about all of the people who he mentions in this book who are players in this story. It is super moving. The Champion family were our neighbors in Baldwin Park, California. Dale and I remained best and oldest friends from high school until his death a few years ago. My mother and grandmother, so that will be Kitty and Alice, right? Alice's mom, and remember Kitty, the grandmother whose hook Alice always used, who was the first one who prompted her to get hooking. Alice and Kitty maintained a regular correspondence with Dale's mother, who was Nina Champion, who wrote this letter about the refrigerator rug, right, the Mondrian rug, until her death. So they were still in correspondence even after moves. Many years later, her daughter and my good friend, Nina Rose, sent me all of the letters that the mothers had been writing over the years. There is a great deal of our family history in these letters. So this is where he's getting a lot of the text from for the paragraphs that he writes about each rug on the facing pages, is from these letters that were forwarded to him many, many, many years later. So this is, I'm going to be sure to get this in focus, and I'll try to make sure the light is okay. In the glasses with the red shirt and hat, that is Vic, the author of this book. And in the blue is his best friend from, school days, right until his death, Dale's. This is Dale Champion and Vic. And it doesn't say when this picture was taken, but look at Vic's pants. He says, these are the fish kite pants. Remember yesterday? He said one of the special rugs that they did was that fish kite rug, and we were talking about Boys' Day. These were the fish kite pants. So isn't that interesting? That the things that he's showing us in this book, this little book, has yielded so much inspiration, so much food for thought, so many sweet anecdotes. It's just unbelievable. So I'm going to stop there because there are quite a few more rugs that I want to look at together. So let's do that on Friday night cocktail night, and then I will end that segment by doing a little bit about Van Gogh and trying to get you going if you are going to be doing the chair challenge. I'm giving you some great ideas on that, and I will post the template if you don't have it of the chair, so you can jump on board and get doing that with us if you'd like. We'll talk a little bit about that, and I did make the other day a Van Gogh set at Kirsten's not just request but inspiration, one of her thousands of great ideas. That is loaded with Van Gogh's favorite colors, blues, oranges, and yellows. A set of swatches, wool, and then a big bag of mixed, crazy fibers, all different kinds, that if you do want to do Van Gogh, you don't want to do them in all the same colors as everyone else, but you might feel in working Van Gogh that you need more yellows, orange, and blues than you have. So mixing those in with whatever your color scheme is, and you don't have to go literal at all, you can work in black and white. I'll show you all of that on Friday for cocktail night. I absolutely love this book. I can't get enough of it. So have a great day, everybody. I'm going to be working like a pig dog, and I will see you on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for cocktail night. Have a great time in between now and then. I will see you soon. And again, last chance if you are in Connecticut for the class on Saturday. I think there's a couple more spots in Madison, Connecticut, punching and hooking. I'm bringing 4 different choices, 2 punching choices, 2 hooking choices. Beautiful, if I do say so myself, beautiful patterns. Really, really good patterns with all wool that I've hand dyed and yarn that I've hand dyed. And you get the punch needle and the hook. It's going to be a very fun day. And it's a beautiful shop. And there's a nice little pub next door. So I'll probably head over there after the class, not during the class. I hate to waste time. But it'll be a fun day. If you can make it, it'd be great to see you. So otherwise, I will see you on Friday for cocktail night. Have a great afternoon and have a great day tomorrow. Bye, everybody.